afternoon, everyone. You're most welcome to this V Club. It may be the first one for many of you. So the V Clubs we run irregularly when we have interesting people that we want to expose or that bring up interesting topics. And I'm Karolinska Institutet. I run the unit for bioentrepreneurship together with my colleagues who are here, Anna Jansson, Linda Jansson, and we have Frank Marco, where are you? Yeah. And let me then move into today's session, so we should get down to business as soon as possible. So let me welcome Moshe Zilversmit from Palo Alto in San Francisco, outside San Francisco. Moshe comes from another state, Arizona, and has moved to California quite a few years. 6 years ago. Moshe is quite young, but he's been involved in the business of innovation in medical devices ever since and before.
Yes.
And Moshe's upbringing was such that you did fiddle with a lot of stuff, basically, in where you grew up. So you were engineering when you were 10 or so already, if I understand it correctly. Yeah. So growing up in that type of environment is not bad.
So I'll get back to this picture later. That's how the Kilimanjaro a few years back ago, but the end will kind of make sense maybe. So in university, I knew I wanted to get more into medical devices. I started off doing more aerospace and mechanical engineering, and started probably the first student program to go to Mars satellite, a small cube. And after working on that for 2 years, I recognized I'd probably never see a screw on it. So I'm like, I better go back into medical ideas. And so I searched out how to get involved in it more. And another thing, my parents didn't take me traveling with them anymore when I was in school. So I had to figure a way to travel. So like, I want to go to Israel, and I know they're big in innovation in medical devices. So I figured what better way than to try to find a medical device company there that would take me as an intern. But I ran into other problems with documents, and my dad's an Israeli, and I'm not yet, and I didn't want to do that yet. And to work there, you have to finagle some paperwork, but I did. And so I went at Trufatech, and they're the world's largest manufacturer of laryngoscopes, so it's airway management. I didn't know what it was before I got there, but I wound up developing their first MRI-compatible laryngoscope. And when I first started, they thought it was going to have to be a plastic device, and they didn't know what it was going to be. They gave me my own office, and I thought it was kind of cool. But eventually I started recognizing what the materials were, and it's made of batteries and just stainless steel, and medical grade stainless steel is 300 series. They're using 300 series. It happened the semester before. I took my material science class, and I learned that it's a low magnetic material. So I just said, hey, why don't we just heat treat it differently, and found some new batteries for them in China that are non-magnetic, and wound up with their product. But so the problem with MRI machines is they're highly magnetic, and you see it brings in a chair. And there's another picture that I couldn't find of like a whole forklift being sucked into one, or you can wind up with scissors in your head. So it can be kind of dangerous, and it's mainly used in emergency situations. But and now they're actually selling it as a product, a true MR device. And I did that in the summer. My last day, we tested it at one of the largest medical hospitals in Israel, Tel Shomer in Tel Aviv. And they do a lot of cancer research, and it's just a huge medical complex, kind of like Karolinska.
So did that go too easily in a sense? That your first attempt was successful? That's quite.
It was Yeah, this was a simple one, I would say, compared to other things. They handled a lot of the harder stuff. So medical device, sometimes the engineering challenge might not be the hardest part. It's the documentation and the regulatory process and validating your stuff. After I left, it took about another 2 years before this hit the market. So design is no problem. We changed some ball bearings, some springs, changed out the batteries, and then did a whole new manufacturing process for their the blades. Let's see here. I think it's like a Macintosh blade. It was just pretty much stamped metal, but once they stamped it, then we did a heat relieving process and became low magnetic. That stuff was easy. It took me 3 months to figure out, test, prototype things, work with their machinists to come up with. And the reason for that was in the incubation process, the electronics are very delicate and can get ruined. But you also don't, and you have to put the electronics on before you implant it. So the whole thing was to separate the two processes and then join them together just beforehand. This is us in research stage still. This is not something that's into market, but this is something that's always excited me, and I'm still interested in figuring out how to get more involved with orthopedics and replacing bone for severe crush injuries. And I think rapid prototyping is a really interesting technology to use to no longer just prototype devices or ideas, but you can actually build parts that you're going to implant into someone. So that was a pretty exciting experience to learn about that. And because of the rapid prototype, they could actually create this trabecular bone that you can't do with just injection molding parts, because you have to normally do mold pieces, you have the core pins, you have to pull everything out, so you just get solid parts or shells. Here we were actually able to recreate this based off the CT scan, the trabecular bone area. And then also the part of the hard bone, so you create the shell on the outside.
Free to just
stop me for any questions.
And,
yeah.
Bug in, yes.
Yeah, this
Name and affiliation, please.
Okay, Patrick Zilversmit. I'm affiliated with Royal Technology or Royal School of Technology. A question just regarding this rapid prototyping method. Is it what's called three-dimensional printing?
Yes. So there's lots of different methods that can be done. So this was filmic deposition modeling. Sorry, Alex. So there's two materials. One is the material that you're building your actual part out of. Another material is a support material. And let's say you're building this structure. If you're building with this material, you have to support it as it gets higher. So you lay a layer of this, like 0.5 millimeter, let's say, thick strand of material. Then you build it, and around it you build it with the support material. The support material you keep building up so this doesn't collapse during the process. And then you can put it in a special bath, and it doesn't evaporate, but it dissolves. And then you're just left with the final part. So it has two different heads, and it has a stage. The nozzle places it however the design is, and then the stage keeps moving down. And you can, there's machines that can build entire cars, and there's machines that can build, that you, now for $1,000, hobbyists are having them, and they can put them on their countertop, and you can print a new remote or a watch or a bottle or whatever you want. So at the same time, my last year in school, I was in a special course just introducing us to different researchers, and there was a researcher there was a physician actually doing research in the early detection of ovarian cancer. So I went up to her after class and said, hey, I'm interested in developing medical devices, I'm interested in what you're doing. And she's like, well, come to surgery with me tomorrow. I'm like, all right. And that's the first surgery I ever went to. I almost passed out. And there was no blood. It was just a laparoscopic, I think they were just removing the ovaries that morning. But simple procedure, no blood, nothing. And it was 6 a.m. though, I guess, and no food in my body. Felt a little woozy. But anyway, I wound up going through the whole surgery. And then after that, she brought me into her partner's office, and he was an optical engineer or PhD researcher. And they had developed a probe that they could shine onto the ovaries. And the light would reflect differently depending if it's a healthy cell or a cancer cell. So that was their system for early detection of ovarian cancer. However, the probe, if you can see here, it was about 1 millimeter in diameter. They were still just doing bench testing. They had good results off of excised ovarian tissue. And they had no way of putting it in the body. This is a really delicate probe. So I just met them at the right time, and they're like, hey, we want to try putting in patients. So I developed a laparoscopic attachment that would house their probe and protect it. They can adjust the lengths and infuse the stomach with CO2 so they can do the whole process. And they used it shortly after and then quickly realized they had some other things they didn't know they needed. So they were on several revisions later, still doing the project. But I guess that's the second device I made that was used in patients. That was pretty quick. Still was in the research phase, but they did an IRB process. I'm not sure how it works in the research here, but it's an investigational research process. And so you get special permission from the patients, from the operating doctor, it's a university hospital. It's a different process than a commercial launch of a product. And it allows you to actually try your device out at an earlier stage. But you still have the hurdle of making sure it's going to be safe to the patient. So choosing materials is very important. And at that time, I wasn't too familiar with medical device materials. So everything was stainless steel, 300 series. But I didn't know what glues to use. So actually here I worked with the machine shop and the machinists. And we actually bonded the tube together by actually undersizing the hole here and oversizing the rod that supported the probe. And then compressing them together. So we dipped it in liquid nitrogen to shrink it. And then when it expanded, it was stuck together permanently. So no glues were needed. And so didn't have to worry about it. You could still use Cydex. And I think in the United States they stopped using it. It's a chemical agent just because of a lot of irritation. If anything goes for special occasions, they still use it, but you can also autoclave this though, so no problem. And then I graduated and went to Silicon Valley, and I wanted to go either Boston, there's a lot of medical innovation there, San Diego, and of course Silicon Valley is like the main tech bed for medical device industry. So I got a job with SciTech Surgical Products. They are primarily, actually they were only a female medical device company, and I got assigned their first male product, which was for urethral strictures. And the idea was to use radiation delivery with HDR, high dose rate radiation through brachytherapy to go through the urethra and pretty much just prevent over-scarring of the urethra after certain procedures, or certain patients had a lot of recurrence of stricture. And so pretty much we fully catheter, but redeveloped it and put in different working channels so you can have an actual place for the ureteroscope to go, so you can actually visualize the strictures, figure out where you're going to place the radiation source. And then a separate, and then using that same channel, we used the safety catheter that was also in a closed circuit that could not ever be introduced to the patient. And then we would actually be able to run the radiation source through that with HDR. So HDR is like a computer-controlled wire with a radiation seat at the end. So it's about a 1 millimeter, a little less, 9-all wire with a radiation, Iridium-192 is a common source. And it's welded at the tip. And so that's a little about that. But so then actually, so 10 months, so I had a little rough start when I finished school. I was only there for 10 months. The company was actually acquired by another company in Boston and later went off. And I was pretty scared. And but I'm like, there's a lot of opportunity here. So I actually wanted to work at a startup. I'm here, I should go work at a startup. So I went to Sierra Medical, and I thought this was a startup. Now I don't consider it, well, it's still a startup. But it was 30 people. I was probably the 30-something employee there. And they already raised seed round of funding, so $30 to $50 million, been around for 5 years. And they're the first non-implant PFO closure. So PFO is a hole between the right and left atrium of the heart that 25% of us have it in this room, I guess. But and most of them are actually implants. They're a German company, I think, Implants are. There's another company out in Minnesota. But they're all implants, and the idea of implants is they think it causes embolisms, and you don't ever want to put anything foreign in your body, so you never want to use an implant. So they came up with I had some issues in figuring out what to do next in manufacturing and building more devices. And they're doing most of the clinicals in Germany and in Australia. And so with PFO, so United States, you have to prove efficacy and effective and safety. So the big thing in PFO is being linked to is cryptic strokes and severe migraines, which are both really hard things to figure out what causes them. Because cryptic stroke, the theory is that a clot travels through the PFO and doesn't get filtered through the lungs, and it goes right to the brain and causes a stroke. Okay, and then severe migraines, unoxygenated blood is going to the brain and you're getting a severe migraine. But migraines are caused closing PFOs actually prevents cryptic strokes and severe migraines. They've done. So the first time they did a study, I think it was a several tens of millions of dollar study, it was inconclusive. So that actually resulted in this company losing funding. So I was only there for about 10 months and had to move on to another company. But in 20 months worth of time, I learned about radiation delivery, silicone catheters, different materials, how to build radiation delivery. This was using radio frequency, so learning about electronics and control systems for heating up tissue, protein interactions, RF spark generators and meeting different people who are experts in this space. So that's the positive side, which I think is only the best part. So I moved on.
But you would have learned much less if you
had
started in one company.
If I stayed there, you only are very focused. So yeah, you meet less people. And, yeah. So now I'm broadening my scope. Actually, so I wasn't sure how long everything would go, so I moved on from there to a company called Extent, and they were making customizable stent links. So I don't have it here, but pretty much it was a stent that was in 5mm links versus your 10, 20, or 25mm link stent. So the idea was it would be more flexible, and also you can use the same device to deliver multiple stents, because not all the time you need a 30mm stent, you might only need a 10. So, but they also had some clinical pitfalls and longer than they expected, so had to move on to another company. They wound up closing down. However, through that company had a lot of stuff. I actually was able to choose that company at that time because I was networked with enough people. I'm like, I want to work there. And stents were not the most exciting to me, but they did a lot of things in-house. They were making their own balloons and delivery system. They were cutting the stents themselves. They were coating the stents. So I pretty much just went there and I'm like, I want to learn how to do all of it, even though I was working on another side project. But so pretty much that's what I tried to take in while I was there. But so clinicals weren't going so well, no funding, got to move on. However, because of that, I got to do what I ultimately have always wanted to do, is start a company. And so the CFO of that company connected pretty much started me, and we only had money for 3 months. And I'm like, okay, well, I had severance from these other companies, so I'm like, okay, well, technically I have like another 3 or 4 months to live off of some money from the other companies going under. So I'm like, there's no better time than now to do it. It's what I want to do. So the parents are kind of scared. They're like, oh, it's not stable. And I'm like, don't worry, I'm young. I can go work at a sporting store or something maybe, I don't know. So anyway, so I jumped into that, and we used radio frequency energy to create a sealing device for sealing lung tissue. And this was like a whole learning process. So through this company, we raised, the two of us, the CEO and I, we raised almost $3.5 million over the course of 3.5 years. We filed at times you still don't have money, so I actually learned how to write my own 510K and file it because we couldn't pay anyone to do it, so I had to do it. And that's actually the process of how you get a device to go to the market in the United States. You have to file with FDA, and they have to say yes to it. You give them data, and they ask you for more data, and they want something else. They want biocompatibility. They want you to show that you can sterilize the device, you can package the device. So pretty much had to figure out how to do all that on my own because only two of us. But through those other companies, I had a lot of good friends. I could call them up and, hey, I'm trying to figure this out, and they were actually able to meet for coffee or give them a dinner and teach me how to do it. So I mean, it was a great process. But so we started. So current devices that are used for. Well, yes.
Could I ask you? So how did you get your first financing there?
First financing. Okay, so
beyond the 3 months.
Yeah.
The 3.5.
Yeah. So the physician who had the initial idea, he had some other physicians who were friends who were also interested in investing. So we put together an investment portfolio of the business plan, the market we were reaching, the return we hope to give to them, the whole process, like how long it'll take to get to different steps, and pretty much just kept learning how to pitch. And so we raised $500,000 at a time, like every 6 months, pretty much.
It was a group of angels.
Yeah, it's all angel investment, so it's not venture capital. We did pitch to venture capital, but we were still too early in what we were trying to do for VC or in corporate financing. This was like really early, yeah. But so it's all angel investors. So the doctor's idea was to come up with a smaller device and something easier than these things doesn't show you how big they are, but this is a gastrointestinal stapler, and they're pretty big. It looks like it's for an elephant. Are coming up with thoracic surgical instruments. So you can see this is like a staple line in the this is a cancerous or damage from smoking. But you can see this device that uses staples, and so the lung is like is a balloon, and you're putting staples in a balloon, so you have air leakage, fluids. The patient has to be hooked up to tubes, and they're at least in the hospital for another 5 days at least. And we're like, well, we can do better than that. We thought. No, we actually did. But so that's why we wanted to use RF or some other method to close this the suture line. So within a month of starting, I was in the animal lab already with my first prototype. So when I first started, I didn't know I had to convince the CEO like we should buy equipment for the lab. So my first devices were just taking wires and some basic plastic blocks, and then actually through another company So by doing that, I made my first prototype, got the lung tissue in, showed that I could seal portions of it, got me excited. I'm like, well, now we got to actually like show how thick you need to, how much force you're actually applying, because I don't know how much force I'm applying with my hand. So we actually bought our first test stand, and that's when we started buying more and more equipment as we started to find the engineering requirements that we're going to have to hit. And so within that first month, we were in the animal clinic, and I pretty much off of eBay bought some existing laparoscopic instruments, and then I machined them a certain way to make attachments that were geared towards my electrode design. So we had to redevelop a whole new handle and figure out all the engineering here, because that's expensive and it's been done and it's easy to figure out. No point investing in that. And the surgeon came to the animal lab, and everything worked. And with that data, we actually raised. So then, with that data, we raised the next round of money. So probably had raised like $1 million at that point, or close to it. And yeah, so then we kept working on that idea, but interaction with the physician wasn't always consistent. But we thought that's the way it is. We'd go to his surgeries all the time, and he would come in once a month or something with us. Yeah, you're good, you're good. And he wasn't pretty hard with him, with us, but we were going into clinic like at least once a week watching his surgeries and coming up with other ideas and seeing how the positions were. But maybe not asking the right questions, and he's not getting the right responses because he's concentrating too much. But that's when we started realizing how important it is to always be with the physician. And he was really dedicated because he was running his own practice. He's an awesome surgeon, so you should go to him. We thought we were doing the best, and we were doing the best we could. So that's when we started recognizing the whole little disconnects. But we started realizing this is actually going to be a bigger research project. It's going to cost more money, more time, and we're not going to deliver everything. So we quickly pivoted to something with something a little bit easier. These as a biopsy tool. This is just a simple, except they're really small. They're like 1 to 1.5 millimeter, the core biopsy. But something we discovered was for interventional radiologists, it causes pneumothorax, so collapse of the lung. And then the patient has to have a chest tube, they're in the hospital, and it's a simple thing just to get a core biopsy of a lung tumor or for interstitial lung disease. Like, oh, why don't we use the same technology we developed for the smaller lobectomy to apply it for our biopsy tool. So we came with a RF frequency biopsy tool that would get larger samples and seal the needle track so you don't have any pneumothorax or hemothorax, so no air leaks or blood leak. And it worked pretty well. And it was for, I don't have a picture because it's still kind of early, but more for lung volume reduction without any cutting. It's more for emphysema and collapsing the lung a certain way so that you never have to go in for a scopic. It can all be done percutaneous through a needle pretty much to collapse the lung. We were working then, at that point we had recruited more physicians and they were really excited about it. But at that point we had exhausted our money and things were a little bit harder to kind of raise, and so we figured we'll have to come back. And so this project is on hold now, but
Still 2 people.
it was just the 2 of us, yeah. So we had to kind of move on to work at more stable companies while we figure out what we're going to do next. Well, while this was going on, I said we'll come back to Africa. This is my friend Casper. In 2008, I climbed Kilimanjaro, and he and I met while we were climbing, so we had 5 days to climb with each other. And one thing I've always liked was building things from nothing, even as a kid, toys, breaking things apart. And I wanted to do that with medical devices. And when I was in school, I tried to work with Medicine Sans Frontiers or Doctors Without Borders, like volunteer doctors that go overseas. And I approached them and said, hey, I'm an engineer. Do you guys need someone to repair your devices or figure out how to make new things for you? And they're like, no, you got to be a doctor. And they're just like, all right, fine. I'll figure it out on my own one day. So today I am, and I'm building a low-cost. So Casper and I started a company, actually through a business competition in Denmark 2 years back, through Venture Cup and Develop Prize. I think there's actually a branch of it in Sweden as well.
Yes.
And we were finalists there. And we developed a low-cost endoscopy imaging system. So it uses a laptop, a very simple CCD camera chip like you would find in your digital camera. and we put a special casing around it, and you can attach any type of scope you want, a rigid or flexible scope, depending on what kind of procedures you're going to do.
So everything off the shelf?
Everything is off the shelf. So the main thing is, and you have a USB cord, so if it breaks, you can replace it. If the camera breaks, you can replace it. This right here, the first one was a little bit expensive to make, but you can just machine one. The design is like really simple, just a hollow pipe. You can probably use PVC pipe from a hardware store. And it all plugs into a laptop, or eventually like a tablet PC or your iPad or your iPhone. iPhone's a little small on the screen, but plug it into anything. And so now it's accessible to anyone. And this I'm building in my garage. I've only built like 10 of them, but so the numbers are a little expensive, but they're like $500 versus something that you'd find at a hospital here, Stanford, any major hospital. They're starting around $70,000 for an endoscopy tower where you have a camera, you have the processing unit, you have the light source. But so we just have a camera, and then we hook it up. UCLA or Stanford or Karolinska or a big city in India or anyone who's trained anywhere in the world, 24/7. And so it happens, I told this idea to my cousin, and he's heads up gynecology at UCLA, and he's also a volunteer doctor for a small nonprofit organization that does maternal health in Uganda. And so he's excited about it, and he's been using it on the past 2 trips he's been on. So we've been treating patients with it that he would normally never be able to treat. And we're right now treating fistula, which is about 2 million women in sub-Saharan Africa, and there's over 100,000 new cases every year. And most of the time you don't need endoscopy, so they've been doing it without before, but some of the more complicated cases, they have to put in a ureteral stent so they can localize, the fistula is pretty close to the ureters, so they have to do this to help preserve the ureters and keep flow. So this is an image of me watching it in Palo Alto, but I'm filming with my iPhone from a Skype conversation, but so the image is a little fuzzy, but that's what we're doing right now. And yeah, actually we're growing it. We're working with some medical students here at Karolinska. We're going to be doing another study in India this summer, a project with it. And so this was the one where we first started, and actually there's a design firm in Palo Alto that's kind of famous called IDEO. They think they made the first mouse, and they do a lot of big projects. They're just one of the world's premier design firms. And so through IDEO.org, they picked up my project, and so now we have a nicer handle that's a little bit more ergonomic, it's lighter, it's easier to machine, and this is what we're currently using right now. And then, another big part I shouldn't leave off is that we have a light source. So current, with endoscopy systems that are used, our developed world hospitals is you have a light box with a long fiber optic cable, you lose 60% of your light through that, so it can be really bright, big, you got plugged into a wall. So we created a light source with an ultra bright LED that connects directly to your laptop, and we have a special circuitry that ups the power from the laptop, the current from the laptop, so we can plug directly into the post of the endoscope. So now the light source loss is minimized. You only lose the light through the rods and the scope itself. So you don't need as bright of a light, you can power it off a laptop, it's completely portable, you can throw it in your backpack, have mobile clinics in reach rural areas. Yeah. And all of it's, because it runs on the laptop, you can power it by solar power, or you have 3 hours off your laptop to do surgeries.
That's quite cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about the Indian connection with the Indian healthcare system and the hospital chain that
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with it. So from my end, we never actually have made a connection from, so this company called Evolving Technologies, or Evotech, we've tried making inroads with different hospitals in India. There's AIMS hospitals, and they have a mobile health clinic that does upper GI stuff mostly. And we've never connected with them, but Peter has, I believe, for AIMS and Fortis, right?
And also Christian Medical College in Bangalore,
Okay.
which is the second largest hospital in India. They're very interested in trying to use this.
Yeah.
Did you find the patent for this, or?
No. So I don't know if it's, so good question. So I don't know if patents matter so much in Africa or India, and also, but no, it's still, also the parts are off the shelf. I just combine them, put them in my garage. So it's not really something that I feel is patentable. And also we were thinking about making the whole design open source anyway, so anyone can build it. And the main thing, so you got to figure out how you're going to make your company sustainable. Like you need to have some sort of income coming in so that tomorrow someone can still have a camera or some sort of support. So we're trying to see, maybe it's going to be, we're trying to figure it out. We don't know what we're doing. We're just having fun with it. But we're thinking it's going to be more of the network effect. So you have doctors training, teaching modules, providing support. We're recording all these things. So maybe we can store all the information in the cloud, create some sort of artificial intelligence for navigation so a new physician has some help without a physician watching him. Can we sell this data? Can we extrapolate data from the images from all different types of surgeries to figure out, like if maybe someone wants to do a clinical trial, like what's the average size of a fallopian tube for some sort of medical device? Instead of like doing, trying to find patients, maybe we've done the printed procedures, you can take a calculation, figure it out from our software. So I mean, there's a lot of different things we're trying to figure out.
Well, apart from the business sustainability and patenting and so on, what about the, let's say, documentation, the regulatory, the safety aspects, even though Africa,
yeah, they're much lighter.
Patients may benefit nevertheless, but
yeah, you still have to take that into consideration. We're learning. So Africa, it's an open space, but so we have to protect the patient confidentiality. So right now we're not transmitting anything, it's just privately between two people who are connected. So it's not like an open platform anyone is doing it right now. But we have to figure that out. So by meeting people, I've met people in the space of video conferencing, and we're trying to figure out what we can do together to kind of formalize it into something.
Any questions on the last bit?
Compare the image quality of the system
to current standards? Yeah, something to Olympus. This is not HD quality, so it's not comparable at all. But it's something that they can still use. It's probably something like what you would have back in the 80s. Also, ours is still very prototype, so the processing system we're using and the software can be optimized. I'm using it off the shelf. As is, it's like the trial, just so that they can show customers that their camera works and you can still tweak it. So I need to meet a programmer to come on board if anyone wants to do that. But yeah, we can actually increase the image size and image quality. But so one thing that's kind of nice about going this route is you can attach different types of scopes, and it's non-patient contacting. So it's pretty safe from that perspective, and we actually have the engineering from UCLA evaluate the system so that they know it's safe. I mean, they use laptops in the ORs anyway, so it's not something that's foreign to the medical field. So it's something that's stable. So that's why it's nice. But the ultimate idea would actually not to actually go this route, but to do more of a chip-on-tip type approach. And you have a camera on your iPhone, and it's probably $2 or less. So we can make a much cheaper camera, more versatile, but the development of this is a little bit more expensive. So I haven't been able to do it this way. Because if I do it this way, I have to put on the end of a rod, and then I have to do some biocompatibility testing to show that that's safe to use. So here we just use scopes that you're buying from Karl Storz, Olympus, so everything's approved already. So we avoid that barrier. And it lets us get to the clinic faster and figure out what are the real problems they face in Africa. Do you need endoscopy? I mean, one of the first things we realized is, yeah, you have this screen, but they don't have screens in the hospitals there, and they have big windows because they do everything by daylight in case the power goes out, so they have a lot of reflection on the screen. So we never would have learned that if we didn't get to the clinic first. So the main thing is you got to get to the clinic as fast as possible, keep getting feedback, because your first idea is not going to be what you end up with. And so we're still in the learning process. Everyone is working on it's kind of like as a side project, so it's much slower than if you're doing it every day for 20 hours a day.
And you'll have a couple of students now.
Yeah, now we have more students, so we have more feedback, we're having more clinics, and yeah. And actually, I'm actually also was in Toronto last week, and so there's another doctor there who does telemedical simulation training out of Toronto Western Hospital, and he liked what we had, and so we're going to be working on a project to get him now. So, and that's what he does full time. He's a laparoscopic surgeon doing hernia. More complicated things than what we were trying to do now. So he's trained over 150 physicians around the world using Skype. But he doesn't have, he's using standard Karl Storz equipment, stuff's donated, it breaks, and they don't ever go back to that clinic again because they can't replace the equipment. Where with us, we can, and that's what he liked about it. So it'll be an ongoing project, we think, so we got to figure out the details. It'll be fun.
I think it's an interesting expression of what happens in the world in many aspects now, that the developing world needs and does simply go the route of no-frills type of technologies that were good enough to solve the problem, instead of all the glass of balloon versions that we have in the West. So, and this is both concerning drugs in a sense, that they do more generics or cheap copies and so on, but also medical device. So the question is, how does the industry react to this? Are they aware, or is it under the radar?
Well, I don't know if Stryker or Olympus. Low price. I mean, we're not really selling these yet, but I mean, if once we enter the market, they're going to have to be, if they want to compete or whatever, there's going to have.
What would be your tag price?
So we've talked to people, and anywhere from $10,000, and I was thinking $2,500, but spoken with some Indian doctors, and they're like $10,000. So we were like, okay, $100 and make $10,000. No, but I mean, to get to a product that it's going to take, you have to do some validation and everything. It'll cost. I mean, one of the tests we have to do is this electrical safety testing. That's a $10,000 test. Biocompatibility, when we go to this other version with this chip on tip, is another $10,000, and it takes time. And so I mean, it'll probably be more than 10,000. It'll be closer to 5,000 and 10,000 than we get time. But I think it's possible to still keep it lower though.
By chip on tip, you mean putting the camera on the actual?
Like yeah, on the rod. Yeah. So now you have the light directly inside, the camera inside. Your camera on your iPhone is HD quality already. It's $2 or something like that in quantity.
So you just put all the optics right.
Yeah, and they're doing that now. I mean, Olympus has it for the flexible scopes, and so it's not like the technology is not exciting necessarily, which is good, right? It's just making an even playing field. So.
Okay. Any other comments? Because there are quite a few people here in this room that are involved in various innovations and medical device or other aspects.
How much time?
Name and affiliation.
Both ones. How much time do you put into the chess company? How much time do you
the chess company, 24/7, and I was always on. There was only 2 of us, so.
But your chess company out now or?
It's out, yeah. So that just finished like 4 months ago, though.
Yeah.
But when I was working there, I was working a lot.
So
I didn't take a vacation in 4 years.
So you're not working in those companies right now?
No, not anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. That just didn't get started. Yeah. But I mean, when I was working there, I mean, I was still working on this project when I was there. So this was like.
So you're open for recruitment now?
I am. Yeah, actually. I mean, so I have a current job, but I mean, if someone has a really cool thing going on, I'm interested in hearing everything.
Any other comment? Yes?
Larry Start from Life Science. Do you foresee follow-up projects in other areas where the same principle of using off-the-shelf?
Yeah, so I have other ideas for insufflation for really low cost CO2 implementation and X-ray. And there's going to be other, I mean, you're going to have to make a whole surgical suite somehow, so we're going to figure it out. But insufflation, I think, is another simple one to get over with bicycle CO2 cartridges. And
is there any interest from philanthropists?
Didn't have too much success there, and but now looking at some fistula foundations. So, and then also, but it's a longer process to work with them. But Doctors Without Borders or Medicine Sans Frontiers, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. But that's kind of ongoing in the background. So that would be, I think, a really good, because they're always putting doctors out in the field, and it'd be a great test bed. And
Sweden as a country has spent a lot of money on foreign aid. Wouldn't it be great if a lot of that could
well, that
state like this?
Well, that's how it kind of started.
It's much more efficient than the common foreign aid that we have.
What about U.S. aid agencies? Have you discussed with them?
USA? No. It's all a matter of like, I mean, I pinged them and tried to write them, and there's different ways to write, but nothing like ever was like, oh, nothing ever has been followed through, or not the right people, or the work group, or we just gotta keep trying.
Yes, name and affiliation.
Tobias on Clinical Innovation Fellowship. How much time, effort do you put?
It's like pretty complicated to bring surgery over there because you have to train doctors, you need medications, you need other equipment to go with it too. It's not just the camera. Like, this is almost kind of useless without someone knowing how to do it and without other instruments. So that's why with the maternal health group, we're starting with really simple procedures where you just need an endoscope, this simple sutures and ureteral stent. And then hopefully get into esophageal varices with another few doctors from Stanford for upper GI. And one idea that I really want to try doing is, and I saw it done in India, but doctors in the US have said no, but I think they're wrong, I don't know. But why can't you get a really high trained nurse who only does upper GI diagnostic stuff? So she can be traveling and putting the scope down the patient and knows how to do it really, really well. And through Skype or whatever method we use, beam it to a doctor in another hospital or anywhere in the world who can help direct her of how to, yeah, this is what it is, this person needs to get this type of help right away. But really they're the arm that guides the device. And I think that's possible. Because I saw it from Ames Hospital. They have a video even of a nurse who's going out to the field. So I don't know why someone says no. So I'll find someone who says yes.
Rachel, how much time do you
Oh,
spend
ratio-wise?
how much time do you spend on financing these ideas?
Yeah.
And how much time do you spend on developing them? And is it 5% financing?
Right now,
50%?
I'm looking for partnerships with this all the time. Like, this is pretty much stops where I can go without any more money. Like, basic prototype, proof of concept. Do you want to use it? Can we work together somehow?
For the chest company,
Chest company?
over those 3 years, you raised $3.5 million. How much time did you devote to fundraising?
So for that type of company, a lot of times. So CEO is mostly involved in the financing and bringing investors, and we work together on the pitch, and when we get a presentation, we go together. But you're always looking for, you always have to be meeting with people. So it's like 60% of the time, you're meeting people all the time.
And is that one of the, you mentioned the advantage or the importance of seeing the physicians, be it a test bed, but also the networking.
You have to always be meeting people.
Yeah. And is that something that Silicon Valley totally excels in?
Yeah, I think, yeah, like you can walk anywhere and talk about your ideas with people, and you're going to meet someone who's interested in hearing more about it, who has a different background, and you want to work together on another idea that you guys come up with while you had coffee in that 10 minutes. Or they might know someone who's in the same field they can connect you with. And there's people connected to. It's a very small place once you start meeting people.
Yep.
Well, I'm also from thinking.
Mm-hmm.
When you were developing the chest or the thoracic surgery
Yes.
you said you were in contact with a private physician.
Yes.
Do you feel that there's a difference between dealing with a private physician and a larger hospital environment? What's your experience?
Yeah, so dealing with the hospital, so most of the physicians that we dealt with were private physicians, but then there is so in the US most doctors are self-employed or they work with a group, so they're privatized, they're not through the government. But there is one organization we did talk to doctors about, and it's called Kaiser. I think they're the world's largest, or second largest insurance company besides China, or insurer for people, or healthcare provider. And that's like a really tough group to get involved in, because you have to really show that your device is going to save money, and it's going to improve care. So that's a different story if you want to get involved in their healthcare system.
How was that, apart from being tougher? Was it straight, valuable, professional, good for you as well too?
No, it's interesting to hear. I mean, it was mostly just a meet and greet experience with them because we were still early. But what we were telling them was like, oh yeah, you're a patient. So pretty much our story is, we have this device. Then you got to prove it to them. So then there's a big hospital in Oakland. That's like their main center. So they're headquartered in Oakland, California. So it's just across the bay from San Francisco, and that's where you really talk. They have like their own VC, Kaiser, and you go there to talk with them about your ideas and how it's going to be integrated. And if you get funding by them, it's pretty good because it gets integrated to their system and it'll be used a lot.
So that's the way it is slightly here in Sweden.
Yeah.
We have a very socialistic way of looking at healthcare. You don't have many private
Doctors,
physicians.
Yeah, so that's really key, is showing like savings and costs. But that's even the case. So in the US, you also have to get, so one of the biggest things you have to show is how you're going to get reimbursed for the procedure. So there's something called CPT codes. And putting a stent in a patient is a CPT code, having an x-ray has a code, and each time you do it, the number is written down, and the insurance company pays the doctor for that. If you come up with this amazing cure for cancer and there's no CPT code, it'll be really hard to get funding for that idea because the doctor can't get paid for it. So there's a big process, and the US is trying to streamline that process to, because you might come up with a really cool idea, a great way to save people's lives or improve people's lives, but if a doctor can't get paid for it, doctors are not going to use it, insurance companies don't want to, so you have to figure out how to work the system that way. But if you get into plastic surgery, which not the most interesting to me, but that's a really cash business. That's one of the best ways to get venture capital money right now because you don't have to worry about figuring out the insurance policies. It's all cash. But it's not maybe the most exciting. I mean, there's exciting innovation.
Plastic surgeon here.
But for innovation-wise.
Well, it's not the same in Sweden, though. I mean, I'm working as a reconstructive surgeon.
Oh, that's different. That's like for maxillofacial. Actually, I'm interested in that, if you have any ideas.
There's an ongoing interesting project.
Because I have a few crazy ideas we can talk about.
So do you see yourself in a small setting like now, or do you see yourself in the next couple of years going
Okay.
But ready for the question?
Yeah, my next question was, how easy is it to find a doctor who's kind of like entrepreneurially minded? Like if you have a medical idea, but you need obviously like a physician.
You need a doctor also not just entrepreneurial, but a doctor who's willing to take a chance and like try out a new idea also. They might be like, oh, we have these cool ideas, but they have to be willing to also try them out. So it's kind of easy in Silicon Valley, and if I've met some who weren't interested, and they recommended me quickly to someone who was.
Okay.
So yeah. So I think it's pretty. I haven't had a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I've met doctors for optometry, ophthalmologists, gastrointestinal doctors, and easily get connected to someone who is more than willing to help.
How much are you engaged in or related to the biodesign structure in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, no, I had some friends who went through the biodesign program, but I have not been taking part in it. Yeah. BioX. There's also StartX. Is that the same?
Maybe.
Okay. But yeah, I've talked with them about stuff. Like being a mentor to some teams there.
Any other comments or questions that you may have? I think there are some interesting take-home messages, and they include that. I think that the go simple, the no frills, the basic stuff. Why one make things medical and add another, let's say, factor of 5 or 10 to the price, like a hammer that you can buy in the store. When it's an orthopedic hammer, it's 10 times more costly for no obvious reason. And you show in a sense that you can maybe not reach the same results, but you can come close to places with low resource availability with devices that basically are assembled or used, hopefully in a very responsible fashion. That's one take-home message, I think. And the other one is the networking aspect, that you seem to meet people constantly, and I think that's true. In a sense, you need to balance brains
Yeah, I
all
mean,
the time.
a lot of the ideas, you start with one, but it's never going to be the real idea. Because
Add to that?
well, really understanding the regulatory process so you can start entering it as soon as possible, so you can get it into the medical arena, into the clinic as quickly as possible, so you can get that feedback of what's really usable, what's not usable. So when we filed this 510K, we had really a very small budget, and it took, so to file a 510K, it's like the easiest way. It's a device that's something that's based off of something that's pre-existing, pretty much. You're doing some small modifications, but it works the same way. But you're adding some sort of value.
You don't think the European CE mark route is interesting to you?
Yeah, it is. I need to learn how to do that still. But that's what a lot of American companies are doing first. They go CE mark first to get into the clinic, get the feedback, figure out what direction they can go with the device before they enter the US market. Because doing the FDA is really time consuming, and every day you're not in the clinic is a day when you submit, you don't know what they're going to say. Like,
but as you say, statistically, US companies go to Europe to a very large degree and try it out in Germany or UK or wherever. And then go back to the US with more data.
Yeah. Because once you have the data from here, you submit that to the FDA, and they're like, oh, it's working, and patients are not dying from it. But I mean, already before you submit for a CE mark, you have to show that it's biocompatible, it's safe. You already did a lot of testing to prove that it's not going to fall apart and leave pieces in the patient. I mean, like the most basic things you should do is like make sure it's safe for the patient. That's like #1 priority for anything you do in medicine.
Are you fussy with the ownership of the company? They're willing to share out their ownership? They're good people that have complementary know-how, or do you have philosophy there?
Oh, okay, so like how to divide a company? Or these are just in general?
Yeah. Well, you're all here.
Yeah. Well, I can't really speak. This one I'm not in control of ownerships, things at all. Here, you can have it all if you want. Just make sure you're treating people. So that actually kind of came up at a point in time, like dividing the company, which I think is still kind of too early to figure out who. I mean, we should all be working on it as a side project and figuring out what the team should be. And everyone, some people are business backgrounds, some people are from technical backgrounds.
What drives you?
What drives me?
Yeah.
I'm interested in really improving people's lives and like what can make someone's life better from injury or from disease that they had and experiencing, how best to really make that happen. So right now, I think because I'm young, maybe I'm not too concerned with who owns what. I'm more concerned with it being used. I don't know. Or maybe that's how I'll be my whole life, hopefully. But I think that's what I'll be. But I mean, I'm just really excited to see making things work, seeing it work, getting feedback.
But if you reduce your ownership, you reduce control also.
Yeah.
Maybe it's sort of
That's
you run in a way that you don't want to.
Yeah. So there has to be some way to keep control of it. So hopefully you choose a team that has the same ideology as you. And that's probably the most important part in building a team at the early stage, is finding people who have the same beliefs you do. So control-wise then though, I think it just gets divided up based off of what you commit to the company. So what your expertise is, how much time you're putting in, what you bring.
Have you altered you and Casper own Zevotech?
Yeah, well, so
it's like 50-50, and since it's not a company,
we brought in people throughout, so it's not really a company. We did incorporate for the business competition, and when we started up, we actually decided we don't want to have anyone have ownership. Like there is no real person who has ownership right now, but
how can it be a company without ownership?
Yeah, well, we had it split up that way, but between the two of us, but it's not like we were really set in that way. Taxes on it because like I have no money to do it anyway. Like it's just a business competition, so we can pay those taxes when we get money one day. So, but ownership did kind of come up again recently because I brought on some more people. So I entered MIT 100K business competition last year. We were finalists in that, and we actually won some money from that. That actually helped with some development. We actually were to hire our first person or an intern for the summer. But during that process, a friend of mine connected me to a business person, and he was really concerned with ownership and locking it down. And Casper and I were kind of naive, and we were like, oh yeah, fine, let's just keep moving, because he kept being stuck on that idea. So we're like, whatever, so we split it up again and on paper and whatever document that we actually never all signed, so whatever. But anyway, he's not even working on it anymore, you know? So it's like, there's a certain time that it's really important to do it, and I really think it's too early to do it right now. We're still trying to figure out what it is. I've done some other small little side projects with mobile health applications, and we kind of just had verbal agreements because it was just like a 48-hour competition that I entered, and I recruited people in the competition, and I wanted them to know up front that I'm willing to share it with them if we are successful or if we ever continue on, but we're kind of doing it slowly, so not too big. I don't want the ownership to ever stem to innovation or the fun of it. Like everyone should be having fun.
Is that, in a sense, the game among many people in Palo Alto?
I think so, but then there is people who are really concerned about ownership, and maybe that's not the same philosophy I have, so I might not work with them if it's something. But so far, no problem. We just keep going, keep having a good time.
All right, final question or comment, yes?
Okay, Elias Zea, KTH. What do you think, what do you believe about open source with this kind of technologies?
No, so this, I think would be really cool for open source. One thing we thought of though that, so we haven't done it yet, I mean, probably we can put it tomorrow if we want to, but one of the main reasons, which we don't know the repercussion, is like what happens if we put it out there and someone like builds it out of lead? And then now they're hurting people. So that's the only reason we're kind of like, just don't do it right away.
But do you believe this should be open source? Like, for example, other people that are working in this?
I think it's up to them. Like, I can't tell what someone else wants to do.
But you are a pro.
Yeah, I'm pro for it. I think, yeah, more people are going to benefit from it and live a better life and there's other, I mean, people have tons of open source products that are making really good money, so there's other ways to support a business, and you figure it out a different way. Like you can maybe make apps and start, I don't know. Who knows what you can do with this.
Or make an educational training company that somehow supports this and need certification to do it.
Yeah.
No. So I think we're coming to an end, and there is more food out there for those that haven't eaten or want to eat more. And I would like to thank you all for participating and also contributing to this, and especially Moshe, of course, for coming over,
Thanks
not only for this, but nevertheless to give us this, share your experience. Thanks a lot, Moshe.
Yeah, thank you.
As a token of we want to give you some Karolinska gifts that you can bring home. I know you're traveling without shaking in luggage, so this might be tough.